Einen wunderschönen guten Abend darf ich wünschen. Herzlich willkommen beim Kölner Weinkeller bei unserem Winzertalk. Heute gibt es quasi den Beginn der Bordeaux-Reihe. 3 Weingüter aus dem Bordeaux stellen wir in den nächsten 2 Wochen oder 3 Wochen eigentlich vor. Und wir fangen an mit dem wunderbaren Weingut Franc Baudron. Und mir live zugeschaltet aus Bordeaux, logischerweise, ist die Sophie. Yes. Sophie. Yeah. Now I'm switching to English because I don't think that you're speaking German. So I think English is the.
Ich heiße Sophie.
Okay, so.
Ich bin 38 Jahre alt.
It's very funny because I would say I had 8 years of French in school, but I would say my level of French speaking is the same level like your German.
Okay, but I did 7 years of German, so you have the same level.
Wonderful. So you are from Bordeaux, you have a winery, and let's start with that. Where are you in Bordeaux, and what are you doing actually? So tell me a little bit about yourself and everything. So that
And the winery and okay, my whole life. Okay, so I am Sophie. I'm living on my estate, family estate. It's a family winery since 1923, so almost 1 century next year. At the very beginning, there were only 4 hectares of vineyard. We are located in Montagne-Saint-Émilion, which is just beside Saint-Émilion. So we are called like a satellite of Saint-Émilion because we have the same type of soil, like limestone plateau and also clay soil. At the very beginning, when the winery was bought by my great-great-grandfather, it was only 4 hectares of vineyard, and now we have 42 hectares of vineyard. So we have 32 hectares of Montagne-Saint-Émilion AOP, and we have also 10 hectares of Bordeaux appellation. So on the Bordeaux appellation, it's not like Montagne-Saint-Émilion. Montagne-Saint-Émilion is only red wines, and Bordeaux you can do dry white, sweet white, rosé, sparkling, red, whatever you want. So it's more funny for us to have several kind of wines.
I think 42 hectares, is that, I would say, a bigger estate? What's in Bordeaux, or is it still small? How would you categorize it?
It's depending. If you are based on Montagne-Saint-Émilion area or Saint-Émilion area, it's quite big on size because it's more a small vineyard. For example, the average size of vineyard in Montagne-Saint-Émilion is 7 hectares. But if you are comparing this to Bordeaux appellation, it's very often you can find wineries that are 100 hectares or more. So it's like middle size if you are only Bordeaux winemaking. Yeah.
And you talked a little bit about the soil but talking about climate, talking about what makes the Montagne de Saint-Émilion would say unique, or why it's an separate region or in separate AOP. Is there a particular reason, or?
Yeah. In fact, you have Saint-Émilion, which is located on a limestone plateau. Okay, and if you are, in fact, I make you a little schema of this region. So you have Saint-Émilion here, then you go down, you have clay soil, then you go on the top, you are on Montagne-Saint-Émilion. Okay, then you go down, you are on Lussac-Saint-Émilion, then you go down, you are on Saint-Georges, Puisseguin-Saint-Émilion, because Saint-Georges is the part of Montagne. And if I translate the name of Montagne in English, it's mountain. Okay, so in fact, it means that it's the highest point of the area. So we are the legend say we are a little bit higher than Saint-Émilion. So but it's 96 meters of altitude, so it's okay.
It's as I'm born in Austria, and when we are talking about mountains, there are mountains. Okay,
it's not so big.
Yeah. And I assume that Merlot and Cabernet Franc is your predominant grapes.
Yes, Merlot is the main grapes on the Libournais area. So Libournais means Saint-Émilion, Pomerol, Fronsac wines. And we have also some Cabernet Franc. We have 30, on the winery, we have around 30% of Cabernet Franc and 70% of Merlot. So yeah, it changed a bit. My father was mostly 80% of Merlot and 20% of Cabernet Franc and Cabernet Sauvignon mixed. But Cabernet Sauvignon is knowing a lot of death for the vine plants. And Merlot, we have a little bit of problem with Merlot since a few years right now, because we are in organic agriculture, organic farming, and Merlot is very sensitive to mildew, in fact. And with the climate change, we are feeling since a few years, we have a lot of problem of loss of harvest because of the Merlot and the mildew. Yeah,
I actually hear it a lot that the climate change really affects the plantings or the Merlot plantings because also Merlot is, beside of the problem with the mildew, it's also quite an early ripening grape. And when it's getting warmer, there it's very hard to control the ripeness, that it does not get jammy and all that stuff. And many people tend to change plantings. And I'm curious how the left bank or the Libournais will taste in 10, 15, 20 years. It's very there's much going on.
We are actually doing some changing in our approach of grape variety. Regarding our winery, we decided to not plant Merlot anymore. So, for example, last year we planted 1.5 hectares of vines on Montagne, and it was Malbec, Petit Verdot, and Cabernet Franc, because they are more rustic and less sensitive to the illness. And because of the climate change, for Malbec and Petit Verdot, they could ripe better also. And on the Bordeaux area, we also planted 1.5 hectares, and we put white variety and some Cabernet as well.
Yeah, it's super interesting that many wineries or many regions and winemakers, of course, would say open the books now and look into the past, and they are looking, okay, what did not get ripe 100 years ago or something like that, and then they're planting.
Malbec and Petit Verdot were very planted in Bordeaux area, but
very classic actually.
They were more. It was more difficult to get them very ripe because it was more cold, more cold weather. So that's why Merlot was very successful on Bordeaux, and mostly on the right bank, because we have a lot of clay soil and they are more cold terroir than on the right bank, where it's more gravelous or sandy soil. Yeah. So that's why the Merlot was very successful and was planted a lot. But now we see the limits of the Merlot. Yeah. Even if it's very fruity and it's a very nice grape variety, but
It's super interesting that you are now, here in Germany, many people or many winemaker plant Merlot because it's now getting warm enough to ripe Merlot in Germany.
Yes. Maybe we will do some Syrah as well.
Yeah.
In the future.
Definitely. I have a bet with a sommelier colleague, and I said in 15 years, I said 15 years, that would be very, very interesting if it happens in 15 years. But in 15 years, we will have in the Rheingau region, in Assmannshäuser Höllenberg, which is actually in Pinot Noir area. But it's so warm there. They are planting Syrah in 10 years, and then we will have in 15 years we will have the first Syrah from Assmannshäuser Höllenberg. We will see.
We are some wineries or some appellations in Bordeaux are tasting different grapes variety to have a larger range of grape variety and to choose the better ones for a Bordeaux terroir, Bordeaux climate.
Yeah, I was 3 weeks ago, now I think it's 1 month ago. I was in Graf, so Pessac-Léognan Graf, and we went to Pape Clément, and they have this one hectare of different plantings, always 6-7 vines, and then of one grape, and then really everything from Alvarinho to I don't know, Pedro Jimenez. I think it's really crazy things, but because they want to see how each grape is performing.
Right.
Is performing, and it's super interesting that I would say in the past 10 years Bordeaux really changed. Even the city Bordeaux really got, I would say, more younger. They're more a little bit. It's a kind of renaissance, I think, of this region. Not that it was ever, I would say, really dusty or really old school, but I would say now the new things are coming up, and this is super interesting. What's going on there? Yeah.
Yes.
We totally drifted away from the organic farming approach. Since when do you do organic farming, and what was your decision why you went from or was your winery always organic?
In fact, I met my husband in my studies in Bordeaux, and we decided to go in Switzerland for working. So Charles was working for Marie-Thérèse Chapa, which is a famous wine grower in biodynamie. But before to come into Bordeaux, he was working and doing his studies in Burgundy, and he works for Domaine de la Vougeraie, which is also organic. And so when we were in Alsace, in Switzerland, after we go to Alsace for a few years, and Charles was working for Marcel Dice, Jean-Michel.
Yeah.
And so it's also a very famous vineyard in biodynamie. And so when Mathieu Dice wants to go back to the family winery, so Charles doesn't feel at his place because he was very close to Jean-Michel for decision, and there was it didn't make sense when Mathieu was here, because Mathieu was wants to take back after his father, so wants to also take decisions. So that's why I was working for a cave cooperative in the south of Alsace, and we decided to maybe make our own wine. So I called my father, say, okay, you are close to retirement, what you want to do? and he said, okay, if you want to go back, you can come. So we arrived in 2010 at the winery, and because Charles always work in biodynamie or organic farming, he said, okay, we want to go back, but the main condition is that we are doing organic farming on the winery, because this is what we trust. And he said, okay, let's go.
Very good.
So that's it's 12 years now. We are organic.
Yeah. Yeah. And what did you or actually did your father or did you taste the difference or what's your thoughts why you're sticking to organic? Is it
personally? I think there is a change between my father's wine and our own wines, but the thing is that when we arrived, we convert everything to organic, and at the same time we were doing the vinification, so it also changed the style of wines. So my father said, no, it's the same, and I don't feel it.
Yeah,
for me, there is a difference because I think it's more fresh wines, more. There is a little bit more of acidity and more fruit as well, more on flavors. Maybe because we are not doing an ripening on the grapes, so maybe it's coming from this. But it's also because we are in organic farming. We are plowing the soil, so the roots are going deeper. Yes. And it brings also more freshness in the wines.
Yeah, enough from the theory. I think we start with the first wine, with we'll go for the 18 Franc Baudron.
Yes.
And then doing the 16 and the 15.
Yes.
And I think we will start tasting because it's I'm getting thirsty.
I have the same.
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah, it's always a pity when you're opening 3 bottles of wine and just drinking 1 glass. And so with that, I can share the rest of the bottle with my colleagues, and they appreciate to taste the wines as well.
And it's a great tool for us because we are using it at the estate for customer tasting, because if you have only 2 people and we have 9 wines, so if we have to open all the bottles each time, then we threw a lot of wine.
Yeah. It's very, very good to see that you're using a proper glass. I'm always joking when I started to visit France and had tastings in winery. The best, I had really great wines. I had the pleasure really to taste Grand Cru from the barrel in Burgundy, and then they have this small glasses really where you don't really smell something, and when I see your Zwiesel glass, it's very
you cannot put the nose inside, so it's terrible.
Cheers. Oh, first of all,
yeah.
No, that's so bad. Yeah. You really, I would say, you're really sniffing the 18, the year, this warm vintage. You really have this ripe red plum, ripe sour cherry, really those ripe red fruits with this hint of mint, eucalyptus style, with this floral spicy aromas. It's very, very, very pronounced on the nose. So.
And what is also good to know on the 18 vintage is that it was like, not because, in Bordeaux we have an oceanic climate. Yeah. And in 18 it was like tropical climate. Yes. So we had a lot of rain in spring. Sorry. There is some bugs coming from the winery just beside my office. So it was tropical, so we had a lot of rain on spring, and it was on June. In June, it was like fog until midday, and then it was 35 degrees. So in fact, it was perfect weather for mildew, and we lost 70% of the harvest this vintage on the 18, and because we have a lot of Merlot, we had a lot of loss on Merlot, so we have more Cabernet Franc in the 18 vintage than we have usually.
It's super interesting when you are considering, and this is what I think many people don't have in mind, that Bordeaux is so big. It's really big. It is around about 100,000 hectare, and that's the vintage, when it's good on the left bank, it does not mean that it's good on the right bank, because of course, and I think 18 is more an left bank vintage, where the Cabernet and Petit Verdot is more dominant than on the right bank, on the Libournais. That's really not that I'm getting confused, because of this type of higher percentage of Merlot, and then you have the Merlot, everything is on, and Merlot with all ripening things. So it's very, very difficult, I think, for the Saint-Émilion and Pomerol and all the other regions in 18 to have really elegant styles. Always quite powerful, intense. It's very, very, very ripe. Let's have a taste. I definitely get what you told before. Such a very fresh acidity, and this super interesting. You have on the nose this very concentrated fruits, the smokiness, everything is going on there, and on the palate, super straight. Of course, you have the smokiness, you have the spices, but it's not that powerful as you would expect from the nose. It's very, very fresh. It's
powerful because you have the mouth is full-bodied, but you have a lot of freshness in the 18 because of the highest percentage of Cabernet also. And so it brings the mouth very long and not on the jammy style.
That's really good. I really love this balance on the palate. Of course, you are tasting that it's a warm vintage. You're tasting that it is powerful and very well structured, but at the same time you have the freshness. You have a crisp and really, I would say, a mouth-watering wine. This is very good. Really
so this cuvée is coming from the hilltops. So you have clay and limestone, and you have also some plots from the limestone. And limestone soil is also bringing a lot of minerality, of straightness to the wine.
Very good. I see on the back label 70%.
Maybe we didn't change it, but
never trust the back label.
In fact, now I stopped to put 70% Merlot and 30% Cabernet Franc, because we are working by plots, by type of soil. Okay, as Jean-Michel was doing in Alsace, is doing vinification of a terroir. So he blends Riesling, Pinot Blanc, Pinot Noir, sometimes Gewürztraminer together. And he gives the name of the terroir to the wines, okay? And for the work we are doing here is also, we are harvesting Merlot and Cabernet Franc at the same time, except if there is a big difference of maturity. But if it's a classical vintage, then we harvest them together, and we are vinificating them together in the same vat, okay? So in fact, the blend is done before the vinification. So we don't have the real exact percentage of each grape variety in each wine, except for we have a very small cuvée in natural.
In the end, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
In the end, it is on the one hand, the wine has to taste. And I would say, and of course, for all those nerds and people really into wine, they always want to know why and what's that. And that's the thing about wine. What I love, that you can really dig into this topic really deep. And in the end, you're not getting, I would say, I mean, I think
There is
you will never
65% of Merlot.
No. In the end, you will never understand wine to 100%. There's always this kind of magical thing when you, because I had several times in my career the thing, now I understand it, and then you get a glass of wine and they say it has to taste like this and this because you made it like this and this, and in the end it tastes really different, and you don't know why. And that's the magic thing. What I love about wine is that it's always surprises you.
You never know.
Yeah.
Well, you have a big idea, but you never know what will be the final result.
Yeah, great. Very good. It's a very, very, very good entry, I would say. Good. I would say we are continuing with now l'audacieux. I'm very bad with my French. You have to help me.
L'audacieux.
L'audacieux, okay.
Yeah, it means verwegen.
Ah, okay. Verwegen, sehr good.
Because in fact, my father's did this cuvée the first time. It was in the year 2000, and so he was looking for a name. And Baudron is coming from German.
Yeah.
And he found in a book that it was meaning l'audacieux.
Ah, okay. That's why. So it's the same appellation.
So you begin with a 15 or 16?
I put the 16 because I think we're tasting back. So I can also change this.
No? I have to take another glass.
Ah, okay. That's okay.
I will do the 16 as well.
I already took a sniff, and it's super interesting that you have again this spiciness, but now it's much more, I would say, much more defined and much more deeper and complex. It's much more on the nose than the 18th Franc Baudron.
Yeah, but it's always better when it has few years in bottle because the wine can be more tan. I don't know the English word for it.
Ripe.
Yes, ripe.
That's ripe. More developed, actually. Yes,
the wine is also ripening. Yes. So for l'audacieux, it's a special cuvée we are doing. Mm-hmm. It's a cuvée we are not doing every vintages. We are doing this cuvée only on vintages. We have a good concentration in the grapes, on the very good vintages, in fact, because we are doing an aging, which is 100% of new barrels of French oak. And for the other cuvée we tasted before, it's a blend of the different ages of barrels. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we can adapt the amount of new barrels in function of the quality of the vintage, in fact, for the other cuvée. But for this one, it's only new barrels. Mm-hmm. And so the more young is your barrels, the more flavors of food you will have in the wine. So if you are putting a light wine into a new barrel, then the barrel is taking over the wine. And you will not have a balance in your wine, and you will feel only the wood, and it will be a little bit dry. So that's why we are doing this cuvée only on good vintages.
Oh, okay.
So it's not every year.
Yeah. Talk about the vintages. How was this year for you?
16.
No. 2022.
22. 22, very dry.
Yeah.
very
everywhere, I think. Yeah.
Everywhere, I think. Yeah. We were a little bit afraid because we don't have so much problem with the mildew this year in Bordeaux.
Good.
It was really, really dry. We never know that. But in fact, we were a little bit afraid of the quantity in the grapes and maybe the over-ripening in the grapes because it was very dry. Our chance is that we have a lot of clay soil, so they keep more the water in the soil, and the grapes didn't suffer so much from dryness. And that brings also a little bit of freshness in the wine. And we had to be, we harvest earlier also because we didn't want to have wines with too much sugar inside, because then you have too much alcohol and you have something which is not balanced. And we always prefer the freshness in the wine than the over ripening, because sometimes it brings heavy flavors.
Yeah. So I want to, because I think this wine definitely needs some air, needs some time in a glass. So because when I'm swirling and I'm swirling now for 2 minutes, and it's really opening up. And since I have this special glass from Riedel, which is, I would say, as you're probably seeing it, that's a little bit inside. It's not it's a little bit shaped, so you have a bigger surface. And it's not, I would say, not the most prettiest glass, but for tasting, it's very good. It's very exceptional.
On this wine, also you feel more the toasty flavors than you have on the other one.
But for me, this wine is much more defined. The flavors are much more tamed. They're complex. They're more complex. They are deeper. They're going deeper into the wine, and they're not that loud, but they are very expressive on the same time. So you're really smelling every note of the fruits very precisely. It's not like a fruit salad where you have this and this and this and this. So you really have this sour cherry and it's very, I would say, for me, the sour cherry goes deep into the wine, as well as the cedar wood goes really deep into the wine, and you really feel that this wine has depth in taste, and it's something really special. It's very good.
Yeah, so I didn't finish with this special cuvée, but it's a plot selection on our limestone plateau, and there is a Cabernet Franc which are older than 70 years old because they were planted by my grandfather. So yeah, it's on those plots. In fact, the soil, the clay is between 10 and 30 centimeters, and then you are on the stone. So very qualitative soil. Yeah,
and on the palate, that's super. Is it, you really feeling this the minerality? You really feeling the stones. It's a little bit more. It has some fine-grained tannin structure, and it's very long, and it's still very young. This is something which I did not expect.
No problem.
Yeah, but it's for me. It's always. This is really a thing about Bordeaux wines, and this you can say really in general, that even, let's say, and not that this wine is simple, but it is not from the pricing range like I would say the craziest thing ever.
Yes.
But you really get, on the one hand, you have a really good money value thing going on, because you really get a lot of wine, and of course you can ripe this wine. And Bordeaux, and I would say and no name Bordeaux, which nobody knows, you can still keep for 10 years. And tell me another region where this this can happen. You always and that's why I really love drinking Bordeaux, because you are really getting surprises from smaller producers, and then they're opening and great vintage, like I don't know, like 05, like 89 or something like that, and then you say this is perfect Bordeaux, and it does not cost you several hundred bucks, and there is
one spitney, depending.
No, it's maybe it sounded a little bit wrong, but what I want to say is that you don't have to drink big names in Bordeaux to get and really good wine, and that's always, I would say, a good sign for the terroir of the region, and of course for the history, and I would say the knowledge of winemaking. What's going on in the region, and this is a very good example.
For me, actually, Bordeaux is best quality price ratio wines, because of course you can find a very cheap wine in Chile, for example, but I'm not sure they will have the quality of the wines of Bordeaux. I mean, not the cheapest wine from Bordeaux, of course, but in fact, I think that actually Bordeaux is a little bit in difficulties over the world, because people have in mind that Bordeaux is very cheap wines or very expensive wines. But in fact, the main majority of wine growers are in the middle of this, and they are working hard every day to make great wines at very affordable prices. So, yeah.
I really love it. I really love it, and even when it gets more time in the glass, the flavors are getting even more and more, and it's very good. It's very well made. Yeah.
I need a piece of steak.
We didn't talk about 16, because I think 16, 15, I would say Bordeaux had in the last decade very good vintages.
Yes.
I would say a row of really good vintages, and I would and no, it's short. When I'm thinking about the 70s or 80s or even 90s, you had maybe 2 very good vintages, but now since 2000,
10, we had 12, and 11 was very good, I think, for me.
Very classic and
13,
very classic vintage.
13 not so good.
13, no.
Yeah. 14 was also a little bit more difficult in the region, but 15 was very good. 16 was excellent. We didn't have any 17, so I cannot tell you. 18 was very good. 19 is excellent, and 20 is also very good. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
But we have
but it's I think when it's the many wine regions experience a row of very good vintages, and I would say this is maybe one of the positive sides of climate change, that the weather, I would say, until now got more consistent, and the grapes always got ripe, and so on and so on. And yeah, that's, of course, there are many downsides, which I think we will both experience in the next 10, 20, 30 years. And I would say Bordeaux, I think this year was it where the fire, where you had the forest fires, where to the Atlantic. And I would say all those fires around the Mediterranean and so on. So there's really much going on, and I think in Germany 2 days or 3 days ago we had 28 degrees in October. So crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I think we eat outside 1 week ago.
Yeah.
I never seen that.
I'm very curious about the 15, and maybe we can talk a little bit about 15 and 16 when we have the 15 in glass, because I think this is the same combination like for me for like 9 and 10.
Yes.
And it's very they have lots of similarities, and
yeah. And it's a long time I didn't taste both of them, so it's a great thing. Yeah, 16 is very good. We don't have 16 to 15 and 16 to sell anymore, so I didn't
still have some.
taste it very often. So I will compare and see if the aging is give me a confirmation of the difference in the vintages.
Yeah. That's the thing about the wine drinkers when they pouring a wine and then they're taking a sniff. There's just the nodding. We know what it is.
The nose is very very pleasant, but if we have to compare on the nose, for me the nose is more fresh on the 16 than on the 15. Yeah. The 15 reminds me a little bit on the 18. Yeah. You have really lots of fruits. There's much going on. There's much wood. This dried herbs. There's really this fruit with the spices. So there's really expressive wine. And the 16 was much more defined, much more. I would say it's serious is maybe a bad word for that, but it's this one is a little bit more. I would say more Baroque, Renaissance, a little bit more. And the other one is much more. In fact. So we can talk about the vintages now. So 15 and 16 were very similar vintages in terms of climate. But in the vinification, we saw that 15 was very, very pleasant at the very beginning, in fact. Very, very easy to drink, very full of flavors. But 16 for me is higher than 15. 16 is much more higher because you have more freshness, you have more density, straightness.
If I want to drink one wine now, I would go for the 15. For me, this is now wonderful to drink. This is wonderful to pair with any kind of roasted meats or something. When I was in Bordeaux, I went to a really classic French brasserie where they have an open wood fire where they're grilling your whatever steak or duck leg or whatever you want. And so when you came out of the restaurant, you really smelled like that you smoked the whole night because of the open fire. And with this smoky flavors, this wine would be an outstanding one. This would be an outstanding combination. And even when I'm thinking about an smoked eggplant or something like that, when you're going into the vegetarian kitchen and you have something with this mushroomy, smoky character as well, you take this one, and this is a perfect match.
Yes,
as well. Because on the palate you still have the freshness, and this is
of course you have freshness. Yeah. It's a very balanced wine. There is no problem with it, but I think it pays now for the very pleasant style he has at the very beginning. In fact, because I think 16 will last in the years much more longer than the 15, in fact. And it was the same for 9 and 10. Yeah. For me. Yeah. 9 was like the 15, and 10 for me was higher than the 9.
Yeah. I would say it really depends on the winery. On your winery, I would definitely agree. I would say not in general. In general, it's very hard because both vintages, 15 and 16, are very good, or 9 and 10 are very good, and there are some exceptional 9s and as 09s. And when I'm thinking about aging process, and you have this concentration. And you don't lacking the freshness, but it's not like fresh of the 10, because 10 has for me is much more straighter than the 09. Or you can do it also with the 16 and 15. But when you have this concentrated core, this will give you the length in 20 to 30 years. And that's why I'm thinking that 15 or 09 are of course exceptional vintages, but would say for and I think we have and similar wine taste. We love freshness in the wine. We love acidity in the wine. We love this. We both prefer 16 and 10, and it's and I personally also like to drink 17, because 17 is in terms of price is very interesting, and you have this wonderful crisp freshness. And it's a pity that you don't have 17, but that is winemaking.
The wines we've been frosted at 95%.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
And the small quantity of harvest we succeed to put in the winery. In fact, because we had a very rainy September month, and because we've been frosted, we waited for the second growth, okay, and we hope that the grapes given by the second or third growth, because the second was already frosted as well. And we always have a very nice September and October months. Generally, we say Indian summer in Bordeaux, but we didn't have it in 17, and because of the décalage. How to say that in English?
Décalage.
Yeah, it means that normally the grapes grown in April, but finally, because of the frost, they grown in May. So in fact, because we have a very rainy end of August and September, then we had to choose between harvesting late, but with dust, gray dust, or if we have to harvest earlier, but not so much right. So we decided to harvest earlier because if you harvest with botrytis, it's another problem to treat. So that's why we didn't succeed to produce any bottle for the winery. We sold everything in bulk to negotiant vintners and.
Yeah, but that's winemaking. That's being a wine grower. I think that's always a risk, but and it's very good that you are, and I think this is also the key in the future to be competitive in the wines in the world of wine, that you are only focusing on quality. I think when you're going to mass production, this is in future it will be getting much more difficult. The quality thinking is the way, on my perspective, where you will succeed in 10, 15, 20, 30 years.
And the good thing we have with our size of vineyard, 42, is that we can produce a certain amount of bottles. And so, in fact, what we want to do is to make wines that people really enjoy, and that are very affordable wines. Yeah. And they can buy a bottle, and maybe if they want 2 weeks after, they can buy another one, and it's not so much expensive. So if you like the one, then you don't have any mind decision to make. Okay, I take one. Okay, yeah. This is what we want. We want people can buy the wine and drink it and enjoy it and buy again.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing. I think when you reach, for me, from on my perspective in Germany, when you're reaching the magical 10 euro level, the world of wine gets really, really big. And when you are doing and when you are continuing and say, okay, I spend on average 20 euros on a bottle of wine, you don't actually need to spend much more, and you really can taste outstanding wines and really the whole world of wine from every region. About 20 euros, you will get fantastic examples of varieties of region or whatever. And this is what I also really prefer now. As I mentioned before, I worked in several Michelin restaurants where you taste the big ones, where you taste the DRCs, Latours, whatever, and it's a really pleasure and a really and privilege to taste that in my young age. But in the end, I like to find the best buy for 20 euros or something like that, or for example on the wine list 80 euros, 70 euros, 80 euros, where I say there you really get money value, and this is what this is then I enjoy drinking wine. So today my English is a little bit.
No, I understand.
No.
I totally agree.
Wonderful. Yeah, Sophie. We tasted the wines. I think everyone who watched got a really good impression of you, your winery, your history, your family a little bit, your family history, of course, about the region, and hopefully everyone got at least one bottle to taste. If not, you have to look out for Franc Baudron, because I'm really impressed by the qualities. Thank you for sharing your wines.
Thank you.
For doing such a great job, because I know that the times are not always easy. And on my personal side, I'm more on the selling wine side than on producing wine side. I also did some harvesting, some working in the vineyard and so on, and I know how hard it is. And I decided, for me, I'm not the man who wants to do that. So I always say thank you for doing this hard work, because it is everyone should do it once.
We have to suffer to give pleasure to people.
Oh, that's very lyric. No. Yeah, I think I will pour a little bit more of the 16 and wait in the glass, and then see how it will develop in 1 hour. And I don't have any more questions for you. I'm perfectly happy. I tasted your wines, so I got a good impression. Have you something more to say?
No, but I want to present you someone, just because it's our mascot. I don't know if it's a good
mascot,
word in English.
It's good.
So,
yeah.
So this is Frankie.
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 Frankie, okay.
Frankie, it's our big male sheep.
Amazing.
Because since 5 years now, we have a little comment on dit, troupeau. We have several sheep on the winery, and we have around 10 sheep. It's a special variety coming from Savoie, because my husband is coming from Savoie. And they are also eating the grass on some plots on the vineyard. So,
do they also eat the grapes, or do they avoid the grapes?
No. In fact, we put them in the vineyard after the harvesting. Okay. And we stopped to put them in the vineyard in end of March, because when the buds are growing up,
okay, they
will eat. So we stop. But for the cutting of the grass, it's perfect in the winter.
And also for the soil, it's very smooth.
In fact, we are
working the
putting
soil
them in clay plots, which are very humid in winter, and it's a little bit hard for us to go inside with the tractors for cutting the grass and plowing the soil. So on those 2 hectares of vineyard, then we didn't go with the tractors during the winter. It's only the sheep. Yeah. And they do a great job.
And I love this approach of this, would say, more traditional farming thinking, where you are doing like in circles, so where you're doing the growing, where you have some animals and both profit from each other. I would say it's more and biodynamic approach. I would say that's not particular biodynamic, but the thinking of this kind of circle of life thing,
and farming sense and
and many producers now buying some more land, not to do more grapes, to do, would say, more like animal farming as well, for their own compost and so on, for their own fertilization and so on and they're really thinking back, okay, what did my grandparents do and how did they do wine? And this thinking of back to the roots is getting much more stronger in the wine scene, in the high quality, of course.
Yes.
Not in the.
And it's also changing, but we cannot have, because if we want sheep to do all the vineyard, we have to become berger.
Sheep farmers, I would say.
Sheep farmer, so it's not really our job. It's more like our babies.
No, it's
or our dog. Or
it's just, no. I love the idea. Yeah, when I'm next time, I always try to go 2 times to Bordeaux. I will come around.
Yeah, with pleasure.
And then I will have a look on your sheeps with my girlfriend.
You will do a photo with Frankie, a picture with Frankie.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for this really nice evening. And we will see us definitely again. Maybe next year you come to Cologne. Maybe we are doing an event. We will see what.
If you ask me, I will surely do.
Wonderful.
Okay.
And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And now I'm switching now I'm switching shortly to German. Erstmal vielen Dank nochmal fürs Zusehen. Und wenn Ihnen das heute gefallen hat, nächste Woche, auch wieder selbe Zeit, auch wieder am Donnerstag, geht es auch wieder ins Bordeaux zu Château Lelot. Und das wird auch ganz spannend. Ganz anderer Weinstil, ganz anders, aber nicht unspannender. Und vielen Dank fürs Zusehen. Und ich wünsche Ihnen noch einen schönen Abend. Sophie, thank you very much.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen. Au revoir.
Au revoir. Bye.
Et bonne nuit. Ciao.